good.
So, welcome everybody to the Entertainment Marketing Meetup. We're glad you could make it here today. We've got people from all over the world, actually. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Let me just start my lovely video here. Okay.
Oh, look at you, Jim.
Where am I?
Where are you?
Hey, there's a face I haven't seen in a long time. There's a few of them here. So, just a few things about myself. I'm sure a lot of you know who I am. I'm the president of NWC. We publish a number of publications in the entertainment industry. We provide marketing services to a growing host of clients. We have a service called Music Books Plus. We distribute books and software and such in 90 countries. I'm a consultant to a lot of clients as well. Used to be a teacher. I taught at Metalworks for about 8 years. And I see a Metalworks face there staring at me. I've also been a speaker both on the ground and virtually over the years, but Canada and the States and Europe. And I host a group on LinkedIn called the Entertainment Marketing Resources Group. And if you haven't joined that, you should. Post a lot of really good stuff, and it's amazing what's available. So just go to LinkedIn and search for that. You can join up and be glad to see you. So first off, let's get acquainted here. So just a question of where you are. So if you could just fill that in, it's painless and anonymous.
Ow.
Not many foreign in there. Oh yeah, there's a couple. So there's the results. It's not too surprising. A lot in Ontario, Western Canada. And then the second question is, what do you do? Now with this one, there's multiple choice because I recognize that a lot of you do a lot of different things. If you're in entertainment, usually you have to do a lot of different things just to eat. So you can see here, I've divided it down to marketing professionals, industry professionals, musicians, a lot of musicians, educators, other. Okay, so pretty evenly split up. Little bit of everything. And of course, with this one, there's more than one answer because a lot of people are, I think, especially musicians. Musicians tend to also do other things as well. Oh, there's my. Okay. I can see that I'm having some video issues here. So I'm going to just stop that and put my picture there because it's annoying me. Okay, so I already saw that. So some of the notes, why are we doing this? What's this all about? So actually the idea for this was one of my clients at SFM Montreal, Jessica Sellen. We were talking one day a while ago and she said, when you're a marketer, you spend a lot of time on your own, without access to ideas or feedback or even just company. A lot of, especially I think during the pandemic, that was totally true. People were stuck in their bedroom or wherever they were, and they didn't get a chance to talk to anybody else. So I came up with Jessica, actually came up with the idea. So we put this together for two reasons. One, to get some input, some feedback and some knowledge from other people, but also to be able to meet them as well. So throughout the day, the next couple hours or whatever, use the chat function at the bottom of your screen there, and you can chat to everybody or specific people that you're interested in getting to. You can, if you want, you can publish your email address or your Facebook address or whatever you like so people can get a hold of you later. In the one of the emails you'll get later, you'll get a bunch of different resources. So you'll get a PDF of this PowerPoint. So you don't need to write all this down or worry about taking notes. You'll get a PDF of all of this that you can download and print out and scratch it up and whatever you want to do with it. So you'll also get a recording. This is all being recorded. So you'll get that by tomorrow. You'll get a video recording of the whole thing in case you miss some or you have to scurry off to the bathroom in the middle of this or whatever else you might be doing. Speakers today, myself, Pete Johnston, who's with NAM. I've known him forever. Eric Alper, who has the award of sending us the most number of press releases than anybody. So it's when I go in the morning and I look at my email, guess what? There's Eric. So Bobby Owsinski, well-known author. With our book service, we sell a lot of his books on recording and on social media as well, was one of them that really twigged on just how to, because social media is kind of a Wild West thing. So Bobby wrote a book for musicians just to try and get the thing organized and figure out what you should be doing. And you really have to devote time every day if you're going to you have to devote time every day to everything if you're going to do it well. Then towards the end, after we've talked to all these gentlemen, we're going to separate out into breakout rooms. Okay. So what you do there, you'll see when it comes up, you'll have the choice of these 4 breakout room leaders. That's a whole new title for them. And you can choose to go in there and ask some questions and network and talk to each other. And you can also switch back and forth. If you get into a breakout room and it's not what you thought it was going to be, you'll see there's a control there where you can switch to another one and go to somewhere else. And those breakout rooms will go on as long as there's still somebody there, basically is what happens. We don't shut them down. Even when the leader leaves, we find, being Canadians in the cold, they snuggle together there and some of them go on. We've gone back an hour and a half later and there's still people in the breakout rooms. I think they're lonely, I guess, a lot of them. So but it's cool. And the thing to remember with a gathering like this, there's a lot of experts here. So it's not just the leaders and the speakers and we're all the learners. Everybody's a learner here, and everybody learns from everybody. So you're going to talk to people and listen to people in the breakout rooms and learn about all kinds of different things and problems that you're having and challenges, especially I think in the last few years with the pandemic and then all the issues with live performance. And now, live performance is doing well, but now you've got all the supply chain issues where people can't get any product. So this makes marketing difficult when you don't have any products and you don't have any money. So it can be a challenge. So where do we start? So this is where we start. Big stop sign. The reason that's here is that when we're dealing with clients, and we deal with a lot of them for advertising, for marketing, for emails, social media, whatever it is, a lot of times people are just real anxious to get going. I just want to get posting and I want to start doing social media and sending emails, but there's no plan. There's nothing. So that's why I say just stop before you, if you're a band, if you've got a new album, or if you're a manufacturer, you've got a new product, whatever it is, sometimes it makes sense just to stop and just jot down some notes and say, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here before you start going nuts? Because we get a lot of ads, we get a lot of emails to send out, and you read them and it's like, I don't quite understand what this is trying to accomplish. And as a result, either does the audience. So it makes sense just to stop, make some notes, and I fell back to the 4 Ps, which I taught at Metalworks 400 years ago. And 4Ps have been around forever, but I thought of them, they still make sense. Product is the first P. And product here refers to anything, people, ideas, companies, events, anything at all that you might be promoting. Price. Now, sometimes you say, well, what I'm doing is free, but it's not really free. Nothing's free because worst case, it's taken up somebody's time. If somebody's promoting a webinar to me, for instance, it's free, but it's not free. I've got to devote an hour of my time to go to a webinar on the off chance that it sucks. Actually, not even the off chance, on the likeliness that it sucks. So that costs money or time. It costs something. So you got to be aware of that. And if you are actually marketing a product, you certainly have to be aware of your competitors. You have to, and nowadays that's not too hard. I mean, it's pretty easy to do the research to find out what things cost. Place is a number of things. It's really the market, where your product might be relevant. It could be the audience. If you're, let's say your audience is professional musicians, place is only there because it starts with P. It doesn't really make sense, but it could be a place. If you're marketing Canadian Music Week as an example, the fact that it's in Toronto is relevant. People are going to come from a distance, but it's not like a virtual event where people can attend from anywhere. In this case, it's in Toronto. Promotion. Now, what happens is that marketers, would-be marketers, they always skip to promotion. They go right there. Okay, let's start promoting. I'm ready. I'm going crazy. I'm writing shit and I'm podcasting and I'm blogging. I'm doing all this stuff. But unfortunately, they haven't done the first three. And in many cases, they're not really aware of all the options there are. And I call them marketing methods. And some of these might be relevant for you, some of them might not be, and you'll get this all in the handout, of course. But the key is, as a marketer of any kind, you should be aware of all the marketing methods that exist. And some are older. Radio's been around a long time. It's far from dead. Television's been around since the 30s. So some of these are a little bit older and some are much newer. But regardless, even new media isn't that new, really. And then there's new media all the time. But the key is to be aware of what they are and how they can serve your product and get to your audience or the place that you're trying to get to. And then those are advertising because that's a case of buying a message on a medium. So I call that advertising. These are non-advertising, which is basically everything else. So you look at direct marketing and trade shows, live events, some that might even surprise you or not even think about are things like packaging for a product. That's a big part of it. And even customer service, because most places it's customer disservice. In most places it's anti-marketing because the customer service is so bad. So you have to think about that as well. You might generate a lot of demand for a product or a service, but you have to think about what happens when they take advantage of your product or service. What is a service like? Do they actually ever get the product or the service, or is it just done badly? My favorite used to be Canadian Tire because I always found the service there was so bad, but I don't actually think it is anymore. The last few times I've been in there, it's been pretty decent. So, and when you go through the LinkedIn outlines for all of the speakers we have today, you'll see that all of them are expert in a lot of different areas. They use a lot of different media, not just one in particular. Okay, so the first person we want to talk to is Pete Johnston, and I just got to make sure that, let me just find him here and make sure his microphone is actually on. There he is.
It's on.
It's on. Yay. Okay, so Pete, well, I'm going to go back before Pete just for a minute. We've been involved with NAM since we started, basically 43 years, 44 years now. First NAM show was 1979. So if you don't know it, the NAM show itself is the largest musical instrument show in the world and is one of the growing pro audio lighting and production shows as well. So it's become quite a large show. NAM as an organization also does a lot of other things, a lot of charity work and a lot of events, and they're just out there. They had challenges through the pandemic, because if you're in the trade show business and you can't run an event on the ground, it's difficult. But NAM pivoted nicely and did some great virtual events during that time. As a company, we do all of NAM's Canadian marketing every year. We're working on the next show in April in lovely Anaheim. So I've known Pete. I think Pete said he's there, what, 27 years? Do I have that right?
Good. Coming up on 28 years. Yep, 27.
Okay, 28. No, that's quite a while. So, my first exposure to Pete is that he'd usually be the guy running around with a video camera over his shoulder, and a lot of running around. And then for some reason I didn't see him as much. I guess he was running faster than I was at that point. But this year some changes at NAM, and one really happy change now is that Pete has been made the director of marketing for NAM. So his responsibilities went from crazy to really crazy. So very happy that Pete got the job and that we were made a change to somebody that we had dealt with forever. So, and of course, at NAM, there's a lot of markets to promote, a lot of different events, and a lot of different marketing methods to use. So, and that's part of Pete's job is all day long. Of course, they get people contacting them. Would you like to advertise here? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? And he's got to stretch the budget out. So first question I'll ask you, Pete, is what's it been like for the transition from a video guy to the boss?
It's a great question. Yeah. So coming out of college, actually, I graduated with a marketing degree. So I actually started with a marketing thought. I was hired at NAM back in '95 as their art director, originally doing their print design. Fell in love with the video aspect of marketing because of all the things you can do with video. Got into that world, got heavily involved in production. And then when this opportunity came up, Andy, my predecessor, went on to another opportunity. I decided that, I wanted to get back to my marketing chops and use all the things I've learned and start really working on marketing for NAM. It's been a great transition for me. It's just, I've been involved in the marketing department the whole time. Even though I was a video director and producer of Tech Awards, I was still part of the marketing department. So still part of all the discussions that happen. And Jim, you said something very interesting. Yeah, at NAM, we have a very diverse audience that we have to market to, which is exciting. But at the core of our audience is one thing. And I think we all kind of started as music makers. And, the NAM ecosystem, we do a lot of different things. We've got a marketing initiative called Crossroads, where we're going after, live entertainment and pro audio. But at the core of all that, it really goes back to music making, and that's what NAM is all about. We want to create more music makers in the world and continue to bring more music makers into the world. So using video, if that's the topic I'm supposed to talk about here, I use a lot of different things to do my marketing. Video stands out for me for a lot of obvious reasons. I mean, video marketing's been going on for a while. It's not anything new. One of my favorite tactics as a marketer in general, and especially with video marketing, is storytelling. And I think it's so important to tell a story. I don't like marketing. I don't like talking about business. I don't like business speak. And one of the things I wanted, not to throw my predecessor under the bus, but there was a lot of banker mentality, I call it, where they really talked about ROI and talked about the numbers and all that stuff. I don't market that way. I market to market from the heart. I try to tell stories. I try to connect with people. And I think once you can do that as a brand, I'm really big on, making sure the brand is represented correctly. And Jim, you said it, the brand is reflected everywhere. Every touch point your customer has with you is a reflection of your brand. And it's super important for me to make sure that brand comes across the same way wherever people interact with you. So with video, it gives us a really strong medium to really connect on an emotional level. I can do things in video that I can't do in print. I can use soft music. I can use soft, imagery. I can really guide somebody to evoke a feeling that I'm trying to get them to evoke. And where we're so lucky with our industry is music, we're not selling widgets, we're selling music. We're selling more than music. We're selling art and passion and what we're all about. And it's such a great topic to be able to market. So I'm very lucky. I'm a musician myself. I don't know if you can see my camera. I've got gear everywhere. I started as a music guy, and I think most of us did. It's just a wonderful, wonderful product to be selling, and video is a great use of that. Now, on that front, I tell people, we've done a lot of great videos, and I get a lot of folks that come to us and say, oh, we need to do a video for this. We need to do a video for that. I think you have to understand where and when to use video, because video is not the answer for everything, right? There's a time and a place for video. And I think it's important to understand that when you go to decide when to use video. But I use it mostly for that storytelling and to really bring emotion to my marketing. I can't bring emotion. You can do things in print and other aspects of marketing to evoke emotion, but really video is so powerful because you've got three things, right? You've got the visual, you've got the story, and you've got the sound. And those are great tools to use to be able to shape your message. I think it's a great ROI. Video used to be, when I first started doing this 27 years ago, video was very expensive to do well. It costs a lot of money. That's not the case anymore. That it's amazing what you can film on an iPhone. I've got footage where I'll use, I'll be working on a high-end production and I'll intersperse iPhone footage in there, and it's hard to tell. So I think when you go to do video, don't get discouraged by if you think you can't do it or it costs too much to do. I think really if you put your effort into the story, once you get that established, then you can execute that in video. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So yeah, I guess I would open it up to any questions, or Jim, if you have any.
Actually, we're going to do that in the breakout rooms at the end. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to comment on, and you mentioned it as well, doing it on a low budget, but during the pandemic especially, a lot of musicians took to performing live on YouTube and Facebook, and most of it really sucked. I mean, it was just bad. And I think that's a caution. It's great to be able to do stuff on a budget, but I think some of these artists wouldn't look that bad live. I mean, they for some reason they figured, well, I'm in my bedroom, I'm in my jammies, and I've got my $40 Kent guitar, and now I'm going to blast this out to the world. But I think you still have to put some quality into it, regardless of how you're doing it, whether they've got all the gear in the world or it is an iPhone. Because I agree, I've seen some video on iPhone that's unbelievable technically, but sometimes the subject matter is horrible. It's just really bad. And I think for musicians, smaller companies and stuff, they've got to put a little bit of effort into that part of it.
Well, so on that topic, one thing I always talk about when we're producing videos is, to me, the audio is the most important part, because you can forgive a bad video. We're especially since the pandemic, we're used to seeing choppy video. We're used to seeing that stuff, but when the audio is off, that's hard to forgive, and especially in our space. So I would say, yes, if you're going to spend your time anywhere, if you're going to create with an iPhone, be sure you solve the audio properly, especially if you're talking about performances, and using that in your marketing. Yeah, that's a huge deal for me. It's easy for me to fix a bad video in post. It's impossible to fix bad audio. So that's definitely where I start. I want to make sure the audio is correct.
Excellent. Well, that's great. So as I said at the end, you'll be able to jump into the breakout session with Pete, ask him questions and tell him what what your experiences have been. So on to Eric Alper. Eric.
Yes.
Hey.
What's going on?
You know what? I think if Eric's microphone wasn't working, you'd hear him anyway. It's just kind of the way he is. Aside from being present in our email, and we get, believe it or not, we get about 500 press releases a day in our company because we've got 4 magazines. We've got all of our online that we're doing now. So we get a lot of email, a lot of press releases. Of course, 400 of those are from Eric. No, I'm only kidding. It's not that many. But the other thing that is interesting with Eric as well that I always noticed is that now that live events are back, you can bet that Eric will be at all of them, and that he will also be. I love that word ubiquitous, because you could look up ubiquitous and you'd find Eric's picture, because he is like Canadian Music Week. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He's like everywhere. And of course, looking after his clients, which is a really good part of it. So a lot of companies, certainly a lot of our clients, don't use publicity very well, if at all. They just don't kind of get it. Eric's proven that it works for a lot of bands, certainly a lot of bands that we've never heard of. That's where we heard of them. And we've gone on to do stories and that based on that. And I think that's important, is that it's a way to get to a big market. So if you could just talk about that. And of course, you worked as a correspondent and you worked for Bell Media in the corporate world before. And then, threw yourself into it and got out on your own. That's worked out really well. But just if you could just talk about the value of publicity, especially to smaller bands and smaller companies, what the value is, what it accomplishes.
Yeah, basically, I think what any artist has to realize is that nobody cares about you. And rightfully so. There's 150,000 songs that are being uploaded to Spotify for New Music Friday. There's over 90,000 that are being uploaded each and every single day. So nobody cares, and rightfully so. So what it really comes down to is, why should Canadian Musician Magazine, why should the daily newspapers, why should the radio stations, why should the blogs, why should anybody write about you? And what it really comes down to is your story. Your single has very little to do with the actual success of you as an artist. If you go back and take off your musician's hat or your corporate hat or your wherever hat, and you just think of yourself as a music fan, chances are you probably read or saw something about your favorite artist growing up or as a teenager more than you heard the music. I grew up reading not only Canadian Musician Magazine, but NME and Mojo and Q and Rolling Stone and Spin, way more than I actually sat down and listened to the music. But what it enticed me to do was to think about the music world as storytelling. Why you? What's your song about? What happened in your life that has to do with you writing that song? Who is on the record? Who produced it? How did you meet that person? Tell me about your guitar. Tell me about the first time that you got a set of drums. Tell me about what the song is actually about, to connect not only with your fan base, but the rest of the world. You are all essentially creating a product or writing a song or an album in the isolation of your home in order to connect with hundreds of millions of people that are nameless and faceless who don't know who you are. That's why Taylor Swift is so good on social media. She's like, here's me with my squad. Here's me with my cats. Here's me making packages for fans. Buy my album. Here's me with this. Here's me doing that. So you feel that connection to her, and her fan base will not only want to see her succeed, but they're going to help her succeed. And that's really what it's all about. You have to think about, what on earth is a print media outlet going to write 700 words about me after so you got a new single? Like, again, who cares? What's a radio station going to ask about in 7 minutes, 12 minutes? You're Canadian, Doesn't matter. They can talk to Sarah McLachlan. You got a new single? That's okay. Caroline Podacek has one out, so you keep going down the list until in your mind, you think about what makes you so vital, what makes you so interesting, what makes you so important. And if you're ever stuck, just think about the Beatles. Think about the classic artists that we all know and love, that there were 4 distinct personalities. You knew more about them than probably most people. And if you think like a music fan, why should I be interested in you? That has nothing to do with the verse or the chorus or whatever it is. Why people should be interested in you, then you're almost halfway there. And that's what I do as a publicity person, is try to come up with ideas and angles, making it really super easy for the journalist or the producer or the host to say, I kind of dig this idea, rather than, we covered an Indigenous artist last week. I know you did, but this is why this story matters, which is why during COVID, every song I got for almost 2 years, from the minute, I'm going to say March 2020, when the world shut down and I went outside and I had a scream for about 3 seconds, and I went back inside and I emailed everybody and I said, okay, I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be working away. I don't know if we're all going to die. I don't know if we're all going to survive this thing. Who knows? But I'm going to be here working away because it's the only thing that I know how to do. I'm still going to be writing press releases. I'm still going to be, helping you create videos, whether it's official videos or live videos or lyric videos or static JPEGs or slideshows or isolated tracks. I'm going to be here. Every single song that came in for about 4 months was about isolation, loneliness, being alone, breaking up with my girlfriend, breaking up with my boyfriend, breaking up with my significant other. That was cool. That was interesting. So now you have to figure out, well, if everybody is writing about this and everybody's singing about this, then what makes you so different? And that's what I try to do 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, is come up with, well, as a music fan, why would I care about this? And hopefully it works.
When Eric says who cares, I think it's really important. And
I care.
And
I
it's,
care.
well, it's
nobody else cares.
no, well, it's not to be mean, but
No, it's not to be mean.
but
No.
when you get hundreds of press releases like we do, and you read one from a publicist, and a lot of times when you get to the end of it, that unfortunately that's what you say. Who cares? Like, where's the meat here? Where's the story? And I think Eric makes a good point that a good publicist will find things. I find a lot of times when I talk to artists or even people about their companies, sometimes I find things different about it that they don't.
Yeah,
Because
they're too close to it, right?
and they're more interesting than they think they are. And a lot of it's personal. As a child, they toured India with their goat, or who knows what it is. There's something, they play the guitar and they write songs. Okay, fine. But a lot of times there's parts of their family, and it's not all good necessarily either. But I think sometimes a publicist will say that, well, wait a minute, what about that? The fact that you toured the world, or you used to be a nuclear physicist and now you play harmonica in a folk band. I mean, but things like that attract, if you're in the media, things like that really attract your attention when you look and say, wait a minute, this is different. This isn't the same.
Well, especially because, even if you are playing an acoustic guitar, even if you recorded your song in complete isolation away from everybody else. Again, like, tell me about the first time you wrote a song. Tell me about the day before you decided that you were going to record. What was your life like? Think about what your parents were. Were some of them musicians? Were some of them not? I've got an artist whose father has actually been a legendary figure in music in a very close community in Northern Ontario. Boom, that's it. That's the influence. Do your parents hate you? Bruce Springsteen has always said during his live shows for decades and in interviews, growing up, there were 2 things that my father hated in the house: me and my guitar. Well, fuck. Like, now, does it make sense that Born to Run exists? Doesn't it make sense that Darkness on the Edge of Town exists? So the more that you kind of think about Why? Yeah. I mean, look, I'm here because you're not. I'm here because as a musician, most people, or as a product placement, or as a service, most people don't think about those things. They forget why they exist. It's why for most products, they will always invariably say, I looked in the marketplace and I didn't see this, so I created it. Awesome. Why did you create it? What gave you the sense to create that product? Give me the story. People will like a post. It takes a lot for somebody to follow you, and they'll only follow you if they believe in what you're doing. Anybody can go buy your guitar. Anybody can go buy your tone little box. Anybody can go buy whatever you're selling, your amp. But Les Paul has a really great story. Fender has a really great story. Zibian Cymbals is in 6 generations of a family that goes back to literally 1400. That's the story.
Wow, excellent. So, as I mentioned in the breakout sessions in a little while, you'll be able to drop into the one with Eric, and you can pick his brains a bit more about what he does. And you can, as you can see, one of the things that Eric has is a lot of passion, an awful lot, and that's great to see. So, Bobby Owsinski, hopefully he's here and his microphone's on. Do I hear him? Say hello. I better check on that one. Let me go and have a look. I can't seem to find him. Okay, well, unfortunately, I guess he got so busy he didn't show up today, but that's unfortunate. You should follow his work for sure. The book, Social Media Promotion for Musicians, and the Music Business Advice book. There are 24 books he's written, and he's a producer and an engineer. So what I'm going to do, though, I'm going to go back to Eric for a minute just to talk specifically about social media, because obviously part of your job is that. But if you can, a few comments on social media and how companies, musicians can make use of it, make sense of it, which platforms to use. Right now, it's all everything about TikTok. But if you can just do 5 minutes on that, that would be great.
Yeah. Social media. It's one of those, look, there's always going to be a brand new shiny social media site that's going to be up there. Today's TikTok was yesterday's MySpace. And I'm always a firm believer that your website is probably the most useful tool that you'll ever have in your entire life. There's different social media networks that work based on what kind of music you play. But keep in mind that nobody wants to go on a social media network that the previous generation was on. Meaning that if I'm in my 50s, which I am not, because I'm 29, but if I was in my 50s, my first social media site was Facebook. Everybody then went to Twitter. A few of us went to Instagram. Few of us are on TikTok. My daughter, who is now 20, who will always stay 20, her first social media site was Twitter. Everybody in her generation went to Instagram. Most of them are on TikTok, never on Facebook, because that's where her 39-year-old dad is. So realistically, think about where your fan base is. If you play rock, if you play roots, folk, blues, classical, it's Facebook. Twitter is nothing to you. Instagram is fun. TikTok, you'll never be able to hardly ever make any traction, and I'll explain why later. If you are new rock, if you play pop, then forget about Twitter. Maybe get on Facebook just to please people. Definitely Instagram, definitely TikTok. The main reason why the music industry loves and hates TikTok at the same time is because not only is it controlling and dominating this how sales are and how streams are, but none of the successes are having to do with them. The music industry is suffering greatly to try to figure out how to manipulate TikTok and bend it to their will. But the fan base isn't having any of it. Think about how many things have gone viral. Gail's ABCDEFU, Mother song during COVID. You had hundreds of millions of streams based on people wearing overalls singing work songs from the East Coast during the pandemic. You think that the label that, like True North Records, where I worked, that had a lot of those artists, we didn't come up with that. The fan base did. So the minute that the music industry took away the power and gave it to the fan base, they don't really have any control over it. Now you can just have your song that's 3.5 minutes long, splice it up into 19, 20 different videos of one line each, and see if that somehow connects with an audience. But you're never, it's so rare where somebody will actually, or I'll read that somebody actually said, we spent $250,000 on TikTok and watched it blow up. Rarely it has anything to do with you as an artist. It has everything to do with the connection that that line or that word or that dance or that groove or that guitar lick had to do with somebody else connecting with that and spreading it far and wide. The reason why the music industry right now is in some serious trouble is because if the US government decides that they are so anti-woke that they want to ban TikTok for security reasons, then the music industry will, they've got some figuring out to do, because right now they can't rely on physical products as much as they used to. And the music industry absolutely 100% wants to get out of vinyl. Vinyl is costly. It's a lot of money to spend for them with such little returns on it. Vinyl is cool. It's hip, but it's only really less than 12% of what the North American gross product is when it comes to sales. So they want to raise their prices to $70, $80 in order to move everybody on over to streaming services where it's literally free for them to upload all of the songs. So social media is ideas, it's passion, it's coming up with different ways to connect with the audience. Again, the ideas that you come up with that I use for the media, talk about you, talk about the things, reveal behind the curtain what it's like to be you as a musician, as a person, as a father, as a friend, about all of those things, and make that connection between people.